Hey guys, good evening. So I have a new set of topics that I'm going to be embarking on. It's kind of like a mini series, so to speak. This one I have entitled Insanity in Relationships. Alright, so I'm going to be reading off a paper. So if you see me like glancing down, it's because I'm looking at the paper, right? So have you ever been in a relationship or a situation where it literally made you question your own sanity? Well, like many of you probably have, I too have experienced being on the brink of insanity one too many times. My very first taste of feeling crazy in my head was when I was just 16 during my first relationship. My boyfriend at the time and I were having some sort of disagreement over the house phone, and after talking for over an hour, his sis rightfully wanted to use the phone, so he told me he had to go. Now, of course, any sensible reasoning individual would have given in to what should have been an amicable decision to end the conversation. But in my feeble defense, I was a young, inexperienced brat that always felt the need to have my way regardless of the situation, which in this case was to finish the conversation on a so-called good note. And two, my life literally revolved around this person, so the world and everyone in it could go to hell in a handbasket for all I cared, once we were good. Hence my imperative need to finish the conversation right there and then. He, however, having grown up alongside siblings, would have voluntarily or involuntarily acquired that implicit understanding which I, up until that point, knew absolutely nothing about. Because, guess what? I'm an only child. So despite all my desperate attempts to keep him on the line, he hung up. Oh, the audacity, I tell you. How dare he hung up on me, Queen Elizabeth. Of course, my very first reaction was to instantly call back. His sister answered and told me she was using the phone and I would have to call back. Me call back? From this point onwards, my actions became absolutely irrational, to say the least. And I kept asking to speak to him over and over for just 1 minute. She blatantly said no and also hung up on me. Surprise, surprise. At this point, my blood began a slow boil into the fiery descent of hell that was fueled with both anxiety and anger. Because one, how dare she hang up on me? And two, how dare she not even answer back my call? Each call was, of course, ignored. And by the end of it, my ears were literally hot with rage. I was fuming with utter desperation. At this very point, I felt like I was losing control of the situation, and to me, that was where my insanity began. Losing control of myself, my thoughts, and my emotions. Because I was not getting my way, I felt like I was literally going crazy inside my head. Because, one, I didn't quite understand what I was feeling, so two, I couldn't even begin to control it. As women, I believe we have that natural gut feeling if nothing else. Looking back now, because I got into my first relationship and married so young, I was cringingly naive. From the start, I always knew that something wasn't right. But due to my inexperience, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. For example, my ex used to pick me up from work every evening. So this one particular evening, he apparently offered a lady co-worker a drop home. All well and good. However, upon arrival and noticing Miss Lady sitting all comfortable in the front seat of our vehicle, I waited a good 10 seconds for her to switch seats or to at least give me the option to do so. She, however, made zero attempts to mosey her so-called fine ass to where it belonged. But she can't solely be blamed, as he also made zero attempts to put her in her rightful place. And I, at the time, not having a mind or voice of my own, eventually and uncomfortably sat in the back seat. Imagine I literally felt like the third wheel in the relationship, as she carried on quite unbothered, I may add, having casual conversations while en route home with my then husband. The thing was, I knew something wasn't right, but being in my early 20s at the time, I couldn't separate the sense from nonsense just yet. That was my first taste of blatant disrespect, and probably a secret affair, who knows, within the confines and sanctity of marriage, might I add. I was unhappy and in constant turmoil, mentally and emotionally, and I eventually felt like I wanted an escape. I cried most nights because I felt this emptiness. Just imagine being in a crowded room or laying right next to someone and still feeling all alone. That was me. My problem was I couldn't articulate how I felt apart from saying something was wrong. They didn't even understand or try to understand how I felt and simply dismissed it as just another mood swing that I'd get over eventually. All while still wanting me to want to have intimate relations as well. How could I possibly want to engage in any manner of coitus feeling the way that I did? I think I expected more from someone who I ultimately looked up to and who I felt was supposed to be not just older, but wiser as well. Maybe they were, but only for themselves. I felt like they had that responsibility towards me as they influenced me at such a young age. But instead, I felt like they took advantage of my innocence and my vulnerability. They chose to manipulate and abuse my lack of knowledge for their own sick benefit. Forget me believing, but why would they make me believe that I was their first sexual encounter and only disclose that I in fact was not the day we separated almost 13 years later? Nothing, and I mean nothing, quite hurts like betrayal. And nothing opens your eyes quite like betrayal either. It takes a lifetime to build up trust and only a single moment to destroy it. It took me 5 years after that breakup to recover, and sometimes I still don't know how to feel about it. But I'll never regret it since I got my beautiful son out of it. But me being able to survive that helped me cope in more ways than one. It helped me cope a little bit better with what was to come. And trust me when I say there was a lot more that was like my mama always says, trust no one. I wish I had taken her advice a little sooner. But then again, hindsight is always 20/20, right? So that's just my 2 cents today, guys. Keeping it real. Stay blessed. Bye.